Hey folks, welcome back to the Feature Crew. Bit of a slow week in AI, but there has been one release that we're relatively interested in. Google has released Gemini CLI. So fairly similar to Codex CLI. The kind of notable thing here is it allows you to get a lot of free requests. So we're going to put it through its paces, see what it can do, see if it's any different to the other CLI bases that we've tested. So let's dive in.
Okay, so we're loaded up here in VS Code with the Gemini CLI active, and it's awaiting our prompt. Our first test today is going to be our familiar planet generation test. We've seen Gemini do this not in a CLI environment, so we're really looking to see how well the model improves when it has this sort of extra environment to execute in. So we have our vibe shell, which is just basically a simple demo of how to use 3JS, simplex noise, a bunch of the libraries we want it to use while implementing the game. And so we'll give it our long standard prompt that describes all the features we want in the planet, and we will send it off. And it's off. So as always, we're asking for a bunch of interesting features, like beyond just the basic terrain. We want biomes, we want atmosphere, clouds. So we'll see how far it gets through. In this case, we're also asking for a sort of organized, well-organized project, starting with the planets. Oh, here's the plan. It's going to create and define a planet class. We have to kind of give it permissions as it goes here.
It's still defining implementation. Is it going to check the result?
I have implemented all the requirements. I love how confident they are. These models, they refuse to look at existing files. It's like I even told it, the project contains examples of how to use the libraries. And it's like, you know what? No, actually, I know how to use this library. Incorrectly, mind you.
I think it's now stuck. You can skip to cancel. It's trying to look at the result, but it can't do escape.
Yeah, it looks to just be stuck on this step of trying to check the output. It did spin up a server correctly, but it can't see the actual output, so it seemed like it was just there waiting. There are console errors in what it was able to create, and they're sort of frustrating console errors because it's we gave it an example of how to use the library, and it still used the library incorrectly, simplex noise in particular. So I will give it the feedback, and we'll see if it's able to fix its problem. Okay, this is good to see. So now it's searching the web. It's doing a Google search to try to find docs on the simplex noise library, and hopefully it will be able to use the correct syntax once it finds it in the docs.
I need to use create noise 3D and create noise 2D.
That is true. So it blew away the example and then was able to refine the example on the internet. There it is.
This is very, very Mario 64 adjacent.
It is. It is. Especially the colors it chose. But to be fair, like to give it, credit where credit is due, it sort of followed the requirements. The
atmosphere is not.
It's not moving with the planet.
Yeah, it's just rotating.
It's kind of got its own speed, and it's annoying because it's got that. It didn't correctly map. It didn't use 3D noise. It used 2D noise, I guess, to decide where the clouds were. So there's this like weird sphere artifact. Not great. I do have to say that looking at the top and bottom, I'm not seeing any clear pinch points on the planet itself. So it did seem to use 3D noise for the planet itself potentially, which is good to see. The water doesn't really exist, unfortunately.
It said it was trying to make a plan for it, but
it's just blue ground.
Yeah.
Definitely not even close to the best result we've seen. Sort of middle of the road. It's actually worse than Gemini's result in an HTML file. We'll give it some feedback.
Was this going to add water?
I think it might have.
No, it just
made... maybe
there's a star at the center of the planet.
It did add water.
No.
What do you think it
did? It?
That kind of looks like water.
No, I think that's just the bottom of the ocean floor.
Is that not the atmosphere?
Well, no, we're not talking about the glowing light in the middle.
Okay.
Dylan's blinded. No, it was like the blue around it that kind of looked like it was moving almost like water, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, it's probably just the like ocean floor itself. So
yeah, so that sucked. If you zoom out, you get a cool little atmosphere thing. It's hitting the issue again where it's kind of waiting on the...
Oh, there is something wavy there.
That is water, right? You can see the water.
Yeah, it's waving. Yeah, the edges are waving.
But I thought that was the atmosphere. Did it combine them?
Well, we can at least give the feedback that it's not entirely accurate. So as we gave it feedback to continue iterating on the water, we saw that its slow response times detected, even though it was going like really fast. And it said it automatically is switching from 2.5 Pro to Flash for the remainder of this session.
It's like client-based load balancing on their free Gemini credits or whatever.
I feel like that's kind of the intention that, one of the things that we noted, which was quite cool, is that you would get a whole lot of free Gemini credits, but it's kind of unsurprising that they might try and load balance you a bit and put you onto like Flash. So it looks like the remediation is to use your API key and upgrade. We'll still continue with this, but just calling this out as an interesting side effect that it is exciting that you start with Pro, but you might not get lots of Pro credit. Your mileage may vary. Well, apparently the water will now be visible, so we're going to go ahead and re-kick off the server and go look. So no. the water
Lovely.
is
Fantastic. We're in the sun.
yeah, it's got a... Did it delete Create Noise 3D after doing a Google search to figure it out?
I don't know. This agent keeps getting confused.
Yeah.
And this is not a big code base. This is from scratch, effectively.
Well, we because it's a CLI tool, we wanted to start with a code base because that's kind of what it should be made for, right? Cold start doesn't really make sense.
And we'll try that to see if it's better. Like
Yeah.
Our next test will be a cold start.
Yeah.
Historically, Gemini has been Gemini 2.5, in my experience, has been the sort of one-shot coding king.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the same agency, let's call it, trained in that the newest OpenAI and Anthropic models seem to have. And so you can see this with like disparity in benchmark results between like SWE bench versus some other non-agentic coding benchmarks. Now, I'm a little disappointed that it's getting this confused this early on and that the result was so noticeably worse than Gemini's single shot result with pretty much the exact same prompt, and not even having the benefit of an example code base there, So I think we might call it on the planet.
I'm sure we could continue iterating, but even then, we've given it a few goes. It did get confused. So it doesn't look like we'll get much further, even if we kept going with it. So let's switch over now to trying a different problem. We'll start from cold start and see if it's any better with the one shot.
All right, so we're all set up for our next test. Given that on the channel we do a lot of game development tests and tests that require the model to reason through and implement 3D scenes, we want to test its ability to create a benchmarking suite that tests models' abilities on 3D tasks like scene construction, placing objects, physics interactions, that sort of thing. So we have a prompt typed out, and it's still pretty ambiguous, and we really kind of want to see how the model handles it, how it handles a task that is more dev-focused instead of being a game dev task.
So interestingly, this time, given it was an ambiguous prompt, it seems to have just output a plan for us to then approve. Yeah,
we'll let it go. Gave us a web UI for the benchmark? I guess that's why it was Flask.
Huzzah.
And...
oh my.
That's it.
Can you feel the AGI?
No, I can't.
We are not feeling the AGI today, unfortunately.
It didn't even find the favicon. It's great.
No, that's common. That's common.
I mean, I guess let's give it the feedback. We see nothing.
It is just a black screen.
Because it says allegedly we should see a drop-down menu.
No drop-down menu. Nary a run benchmark button.
Yeah, a bit disappointing with this one.
Cold start, maybe not. Cold start's been a problem for some of these things.
Yeah.
Um,
It did make directories, just like the other CLI ones, but frankly, we haven't seen great results here. So,
it made a bunch of empty directories. That's cool.
Well, I only said it makes directories.
Yeah, it never asked for an API key either, which should have been a red flag. Like, it has no way of calling a model to run the benchmark.
And we're back to pro, theoretically.
Yeah. It says it in the bottom.
Let's see.
Vegas odds are not good on this one. A white screen! Hey, look at that.
It did say it changed the background color.
Wait.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Was it always down there? Did we just not see it last time?
We might have just not seen it last time.
Okay, Gemini. All right, fine.
Okay. Could be user bad.
How are we running the benchmark without an API key, though?
We're not.
Yeah.
I'll give it the error trace.
Well, allegedly, it's supposed to have an ambient light and a directional light that should make the scene and the object within it clearly visible.
I don't know if this 3D benchmark will be taking the world by storm. We're letting it continue to iterate on its problems to see if it gets anything reasonable. Like, looming is the fact that it has no integration with any LLM API, and so even if the benchmark is able to, quote, run, I don't know what it's going to be.
And I think, unfortunately, that speaks volumes to why we're a bit disappointed. It's like, it's not really super intelligent in a sense. We are doing coding focus, obviously, because it's a CLI tool, but it's just not giving us better results than the client. So, score Come on. I guess it technically made a deterministic
Oh,
score
God damn
because
it.
it probably just rendered something and then scored it. But
Wait, is it?
Is that a
it's
2D square?
That's a 2D square and a 3D benchmark, and we're getting a score of 1. What about if we drop down? What's the other?
Oh
drop
no,
down?
they took it out.
They-
Yeah.
They
well,
okay. Okay. So let's say that the benchmark must call. I'm gonna give it one more shot.
Yeah, we'll
like,
give it one more shot. But frankly, yeah, even as Jacob types this, like, one thing we've been seeing is just it seems like it's kind of really getting confused. Like, it'll add something, then it removes it the next turn, and this is ambiguous, and we were interested to do like a dev case that, like, this is something we would want to solve. So we wanted to see, like, is it able to help us, like, work through it? But it's not really figuring out how to ask the feedback or figure out what the important parts are.
It's really just not reasoning through the tasks very well. It's not seeming to
Yeah.
have a lot of great code base awareness.
It
did save the preview image.
But now we're back into Flash. So it looks like maybe after 5, 6 on Pro, it'll probably put you down to Flash.
Mm-hmm.
So that seems like it's happened both times now.
Now it'll probably all break down, right?
Yeah.
It's not clear to me if it's actually doing any.
Oh my goodness.
Scroll up.
Wait, it's a text. It's a text. It's doing a string match to see if the.
In a real scenario, you would parse the LLM output to. It's not even parsing it. It's like, I'm not going to make a real application for you. Go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this isn't even. We can't even use this.
No.
This is horrible.
This might be our worst result.
Signed to get an API connection, but did you prompt it for it?
Yeah, I did. I asked for it.
So we specifically had to fill in the gap and everything.
That's not.
I don't think this
is
is
not
OpenAI.
correct usage of the OpenAI. Okay, it's.
I think it should be dot lowercase completions. It can't be dot upgrade completions based on what you've had.
Yeah. So it used the incorrect syntax on the OpenAI API. I'm not going to go get an API key just to have it break and then to ask it to continue working.
Yeah.
This is a failure as well. Can it even make a to-do app? Like,
Let's try. To-do app test coming up.
because it's failing so hard on all this. Like, we joke about the to-do app test, but like, I don't know. If it fails the to-do app test, it's a real scathing indictment of this thing. Yeah, I think let's give it a quick try on to-do app. So far, we're pretty disappointed with. I mean, it's also bouncing between models and getting quite confused.
One last test. Yeah. Bit disappointing.
All right, it's off trying to make a to-do app. I'm asking for a fully featured to-do app. I'm letting it use local storage instead of setting up an API. But I wanted to organize the project as if it were a real project. And really, I'm looking for a fully featured to-do app. This should be very manageable for any tool. We've switched immediately to Flash. It made a plan. Let's just, sure, go ahead.
Added 189 packages. Currently, we are failing to install NPM.
Oh,
Hang on.
yeah, we're going to not always allow RM. I don't trust this thing.
Tailwind installation failing. 10 out of 10. Okay, so like Codex makes sense to me that you're making PRs and it's in that format. I don't know why this is net better than a GitHub Copilot in VS Code or a Cursor where I get to see the files, I get to have the chat on the right. Here I have a weird blend. I've never understood this.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, I guess if you're just pure, you just want to stay in a terminal, so be it.
I mean, it's definitely worse.
Could not find the string to replace. Model did not provide valid parameters. We're cooking.
It apologized in there somewhere.
It's really struggling.
It's like frustrating that it switched to Flash, but then again, it's kind of like, I think this is actually a good test. Flash should be able to do a to-do app.
Right. I mean, a model running locally on my phone should be able to do a to-do app to some extent. Maybe my phone's an exaggeration, but still.
What's going on here? Considering TS config options? Yeah, so it seems to be stuck on considering TS config options. And when I went and ran it myself manually, we got a white screen with this
Good at
error.
those. It's good at those. Seen a lot of those.
We'll give it one last chance on the error, and then we're calling it. This to-do app has been only Flash. It did the same thing on the first request. It's not often that we don't get anything to run, you know? We got rid of app.js, but thinks it's done.
Sure does. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The greatest fully featured multi-view to-do app in existence. I know it's the moment you've been waiting for, and you will not be disappointed. It can, in fact, make a bulleted item.
My God. I check it off. Okay, at least it'll filter. Let's refresh. Okay, it uses local storage. I can delete. It's a very basic to-do app.
There you have it. The Gemini CLI is, in fact, capable of making code that will run. Kind of.
Kind of is correct. Lack of styles is upsetting. I think it definitely tried, but we're asking for just, you know, our normal challenge mode of see how far you can get. I mean, again, with the caveat is this is 2.5 Flash. At least it got something to run. It's the worst crack at a to-do app we've ever seen. And, you know, I don't know how much of this is feedback on the actual CLI tool itself versus the models, the underlying models. But they're co-designed, right? So,
well, that's the promise when these things come out, right? Is you're like, oh, well, I would trust that the people making the model can make the best tool for using the model. Not in this case.
And even then, to be fair, like Gemini of all the models is the one I see messing up the most, regardless of the IDE, whether I'm using, you know, Cursor or Copilot Agent mode. I've always had, this is just anecdotal, but I've always had the most issues with Gemini in agent mode. Whereas, again, it's very impressive often in single shot coding.
There was a minute there I used it a fair amount, but it would do these rat hole things. It would get lost in the sauce, just iterating on something it didn't need to, or that double back behavior is certainly something it can do. Nowadays, my main driver has been Claude 4, and then O3 is the manager.
Give it a little bit of credit. It did get like a client server split, like a sort of multi-package setup.
Oh, okay. We tried Gemini. Here's the question. How far back into GPTs would you go before you'd prefer this? 3.5?
Yeah, maybe something like that. I mean, they're all, I mean, even when I asked specifically for styles, it wasn't able to do anything.
Yeah,
I'm kind of confused.
Right. It doesn't even make sense that Flash can't do that. I would understand Flash failing on maybe the Planet Gen test, but
I'm giving it one final chance to fix the styles, just to see if, like, I mean...
And it broke, right? That's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's still working.
Okay.
Oh, okay. No, it's not.
You had hope? You thought...
Well, I just thought, oh my God. Yeah, so, I mean, even on the simple request of just, yeah, it's broken. Review of, I mean, again, we kept falling back to Flash, but Flash was most active on the to-do test, and the to-do test is something we've been testing models with since, as Chris mentioned, GPT 3.5, and so this might be the worst result we've ever seen. So I don't know if it's, maybe we can do a follow-up video where we're checking Gemini and some of the other agentic interfaces. I don't, again, my personal experience has been that Gemini does just sort of struggle across the board with true agency and is much better at single shot coding. Whereas the O series and the, Claude, Sonnet, and even Opus are quite good at sort of agentic environments and agentic coding. Not blown away here by Gemini. Chris, what do you want to say?
No, I think that's right. I mean, it continues the trend of CLI tools not being great, but this is by far the worst result I think we've had in a very long time. I couldn't even think of a scenario where you should use this over competitors. And it is quite astonishing how much worse the result is using this tool than just loading up Gemini in a browser or in VS Code or Cursor. Same thing, effectively. Yeah, quite surprising. So I would pass on this. Maybe they do an update. They do a lot of updates to these models, so it's possible we come back and test it and find something great. But for now, just awful.
Definitely let us know in the comments if you saw better performance. As we've been saying, this we were expecting something better out of this. So we'll keep making videos with Gemini. It is a good model, but just in terms of Gemini in these agentic settings, not ideal, and particularly in its own co-designed interface. So that's unfortunate. As always, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Let us know your own experience in the comments. And if you really enjoyed, you want to follow along for future videos, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching, folks.